Welcome back to Inside the Track. We're back again. We spoke this week about Aston Villa, we spoke about Newcastle, and now I'm joined by the brilliant Peter O'Rourke again, and we're going to talk all things West Ham. We're going to blow some bubbles, so they say, and talk all things West Ham. We were having not the best of seasons, it's fair to say. They've obviously been fighting relegation. They're still in that dogfight just now, and that could mean a big summer ahead should they stay up. They're going to need to improve to make sure they're not in that position again, or if they go down, well, that's a whole different ballgame. Good to see you, Pete, mate. And let's talk West Ham. Obviously, first of all, let's go over their season. It's been really poor by their standards, considering they were European Serie B finalists last year. So, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, hi Fraser. Yeah, it's been a disappointing season, no doubts about that for West Ham, especially their Premier League form. They didn't envisage themselves being in a relegation dogfight this season, which they do find themselves in right now. I still think they'll be good enough to get out of it. I don't think West Ham will go down. But yeah, it's been a real below par campaign for David Moyes' side. The only plus side's probably been their run in Europe, reaching the semi-finals now of the Europa Conference League. They'll be hoping to go on and possibly win that and finally win a major trophy after such a long drought for silverware for West Ham as well. So that's the positive. But yeah, all eyes will be on securing Premier League survival. That's the key thing for West Ham. They want to be staying in the top flight to enable them to build on it for next season as well. But lots of question marks going into next season for West Ham, even if they do stay in the Premier League. What's going to happen with David Moyes and what's the transfer budget going to be like, really?
It's interesting because of all the managers that have been sacked this year, David Moyes is still there, and there hasn't really been a moment where West Ham have shaken. I mean, there might have been a moment where, sure, the pressure's on him and sure, the team are struggling, but yet they haven't really moved on taking him out of the job. He's still there, and they believe that he can keep them up. But do you think even if they, let's say they win the European trophy, which he said it's amazing that we're favourites for it, which is true, I guess they're in a relegation fight, and yet they're favourites for a European trophy. It's a bit weird, I suppose. However, do you think he stays, or sorry, do you think he could go even if they win that trophy and stay in the Premier League?
Obviously, if he wins a trophy, obviously he will win a lot of favour with West Ham fans as well. But I just think the Premier League form hasn't been good enough this season, especially off the back of a huge outlay in the summer transfer market. West Ham's owners really backed David Moyes with some big money signings. Not all of them have worked. They've obviously spent big on Gianluca Scamacca up front. The Italian has struggled in his first season in the Premier League. Jarrod obviously has had his injury problems right at the start of the season when he picked up an injury, I think, against Rangers in pre-season. So he missed a large chunk of the season, went away to the World Cup and did well with Morocco, and when fit has done well for West Ham. Paqueta as well was a big signing from Lyon. He's had his ups and downs. He's shown glimpses of what he can bring to this West Ham side, but probably not enough on a consistent basis as well. Also, Maxwell Cornet, who they brought in from Burnley following their relegation, has probably struggled for form and fitness. And yeah, I think West Ham were amongst the biggest spenders last summer as well. So not all those transfers have worked out for David Moyes and for the West Ham owners as well.
Yeah, always is. I mean, let's talk about Paqueta, Scamacca as well. Scamacca's obviously, they're still interested in him in Serie A. He's obviously only been there for not even a season yet, but it just hasn't worked, has it, Pete? It's just not come together for him. Really exciting young striker. So much potential. And when he was brought in, there was, quite a big surprise that West Ham actually managed to land him, because there was a lot of big clubs in for him. Yet they managed to get his signature. Do you think there's a chance that it could be a kind of one-season wonder at West Ham for Scamacca, and actually he could find himself back in Italy? Just a quick note to say, stick with us. We're about to talk about a West Ham striker target, so we will have that for you coming up in the video. But quickly, just to say, please hit subscribe. Most people who watch our videos don't subscribe, and it really helps us out if you do. You can hit the wee icon down there, or you can go to the channel itself to subscribe. So please subscribe, and we've got more content coming, especially as the transfer window approaches. We'll have more information from the likes of myself, from Pete, from David as well, and our other correspondents on the channel. This is the place you want to be for the transfer latest, so don't miss out. Hit subscribe, and I'll get out your way. On with the video.
Yeah, it's not even been a one-season wonder. There's been no wonder, unfortunately, for West Ham fans for Scamacca. But yeah, obviously, big money signing. There was a lot of expectations on his shoulders as he was going to be the man to score goals on a regular basis for West Ham. But it's been a major issue for the Hammers this season. I think they've scored 29 goals in 30 Premier League games. That's nowhere near good enough if you're going to have a good season in the Premier League. So yeah, it's been a bit of a disappointment season for Scamacca. I'm sure he would have hoped that he could come in and make an impact in that West Ham side as well. but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked. Michail Antonio obviously was linked with a potential move away in January as well, but they decided to keep hold of Antonio, who again his form has been a bit up and down. The season before and the season before that, he was in great form for West Ham, really led the line for them and was vital to their success. But yeah, he's not getting any younger, Michail Antonio, so there'll be a decision to be made on his future in the summer. If West Ham do bring in a new striker, maybe they might let him go. Jarrod Bowen's probably been the one consistent figure for West Ham, again, scoring goals, providing goals, and West Ham will be desperate to keep hold of him as well. But yeah, I think for West Ham, they will look at their business from the summer and maybe reevaluate, and maybe that will decide where they decide to do their shopping this summer. Will they try and stay more local based and sign players from England and the British Isles rather than going abroad where most of the signings came from last summer?
Yeah, I mean, even Lucas Paqueta, who was such a huge name to come in from Lyon, seen as a really top talent, expected to go to the top of the game. It's just not worked out, has it? And West Ham fans might have that bitter pill to swallow if these guys move on and then kick on at another club and show what they're really all about. It happens sometimes, doesn't it? It happens. Corney, another one that he's mentioned, who's just not been able to settle correctly at West Ham. Let's talk about Jarrod Bowen. You touched on him there. Great finish against Arsenal as well. At the weekend, consistently been very, very, very good for West Ham. A player that's got eyes on him from a number of clubs. If West Ham are to go down, he'll be one that'll be out the door, won't he?
Yeah, I would have thought so. If West Ham do suffer the worst fate of suffering relegation from the Premier League, I think there'll be a number of clubs waiting in the wings to sign Jarrod Bowen. Liverpool have been long-term admirers of him. Whether they see room for him now in the squad with Jurgen Klopp's side well stacked up front for attacking options. I'm sure Newcastle is another team that might look at somebody like Jarrod Bowen as a real prospective signing. I think just to take them on to the next level as well, as they want to continue the progress right now. But yeah, Jarrod Bowen's a proven player, was in the England squad last summer for the Nations League. Obviously he's not been in it since Gareth Southgate. But I'm sure if West Ham were to go down, they'd have a real battle to keep hold of him. And the player himself probably would be interested in a move away just to be ensuring that he's playing at the highest level possible and to keep his name in the mind of Gareth Southgate going forward for England.
And he's got that extra tick as well, doesn't he, being English? Because he's got that homegrown status, and that is driving a lot of clubs this summer, actually. There's a few clubs who really need to add to the English ranks. Liverpool are one that you spoke about. Newcastle are okay, but will probably want to keep making sure that they're okay for whatever European competition they're likely to play in next season as well. You've got to look at the likes of Tottenham as well. They could they potentially come and steal some West Ham players? There's some. They've been watching a few of them. We'll certainly get to one midfielder in a minute. I think everyone's bored of talking about him, but we will have to talk about him at some point. Pete, Lanzini is another one coming into an end of his contract in the summer. At this point in time, my understanding is there's no talks ongoing to renew that, although there's still time, but it feels more like he might actually head him back to Argentina to finish his career. Pete, any update on that?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of interest in somebody like Manuel Lanzini, as you said, coming to the end of his contract. Quite a high earner also at West Ham as well, so it allows them to balance the books if they do let him to move on as a free agent in the summer. He's been a good servant to the club. I think he's done a good job when he's played. Obviously popped up with some big goals over the years as well, so I think he'll go with all the best wishes from West Ham as well, and I'm sure the player would be very much interested in a return to his native Argentina as well, maybe to run down his career as well. So yeah, getting those wages off the books will obviously boost West Ham's coffers in the summer if they are to add new players to the squad as well. But yeah, there'll be a number of players I think who might have to depart West Ham this summer with their contracts coming to an end. Also, Angelo Agbona at the back, who's obviously recovered from serious injury. Still a key player for David Moyes, but he's out of contract this summer as well. So there'll be a decision to be made on him. And also Aaron Cresswell out of contract this summer as well. But West Ham are quite smart on their contracts when they do sign players. They do include options normally on their side. So they will have the final decision on what they want to do with these players, whether to offer them extensions or to let them move on in free transfers as well. But yeah, it could be a changing of the guard at West Ham this summer, I think, with a number of players coming to the end of their contracts and maybe some of the older players being moved on.
Yeah, it's interesting because Lanzini's been at West Ham for 7-8 years, something like that. He's actually been there for quite a long time for a player. You don't usually see that now. A very long time, good servant to the club. 30-31, I think he's hitting now, Pete, as well. So that's him coming to the I guess you'd say the tail end or of his career. He's only, I mean, players go down to about 40 years old, don't they? If you're Buffon, you go to about 48. But yeah, you never know. He's looking like he could leave. Ogbonna is a really interesting one because he has a key player. David Moyes really, really likes him, uses him a lot, and he actually plays well for West Ham when he plays. So you could see the club maybe activating him for next season. So that's a really interesting one. Talks about Fabianski though as well. He put out that West Ham are in talks with Fabianski to include extend his deal, but could they be looking for a new goalkeeper alongside him as well?
I think West Ham are quite well stacked goalkeeper wise. Obviously, Fabianski is the number one. He starts in the Premier League, and then it's been Alfonso Areola in this European run. And again, I think he's a top quality goalkeeper as well. Whether he's happy to continue playing second fiddle to Fabianski in the Premier League, that remains open to debate, I think, right now. But yeah, two experienced goalkeepers at West Ham have gotten their books right now. And I think, obviously, Fabianski signed a 1-year extension last summer. I think it'll be something similar this year as well if they are to agree a new deal. I think he's been a great servant to the club. David Moyes is a big admirer of the Pole as well. So he sees him being around next season as well and would like to keep him around for next season. And I think Fabianski, he's never let West Ham down since his arrival at the club. So I think it makes sense maybe to just give him another year on top and then see where they go from there. But yeah, two quality international goalkeepers that West Ham have got in their books right now. And I think maybe if they're looking to bring in another keeper, it might be a younger third choice one if they are to do something.
Yeah, interesting. Polish goalkeepers that leave Arsenal and go on and do well. There's Fabianski, Szczesny. Yeah, there you go. I think Arsenal, next time they have a young Polish goalkeeper, just hold on to him. He might be all right. He might be all right. And then also we moving back up front, you touched on Antonio, was linked to a number of clubs. Everton took glances in his direction. They were in need of a striker. So there was a few clubs looking at him. Like you said earlier, he's coming to the 30s again. And he's a bit hot and cold, I think. I think West Ham fans are unsure on him themselves. And he's also posted some stuff on social media, which has actually been kind of trying to almost force his way out the door a little bit quite a lot of the time. So I would expect some movement for him in summer as well, Pete.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be interested in Michail Antonio if he is made available at West Ham. As you said, he did come close to leaving in the January transfer window, but West Ham just didn't want to entertain any offers for him due to their precarious position in the Premier League table. They didn't want to leave themselves short up front, especially with their struggles scoring goals. If they had lost Antonio, it might have made things really difficult in this survival fight as well. But yeah, he's coming to the twilight of his career. Michail Antonio, being a great servant for West Ham, has had a couple of real good seasons for them, being top goal scorer for the club as well. But I just think this is maybe coming up this summer could be his last opportunity for one last big move in him. I think there will be interest from Premier League clubs, also maybe clubs from abroad as well. And Michail Antonio, he's obviously not everybody's cup of tea as a forward, maybe not the best finisher, but he definitely does offer something. He's a strong target man, and also I think he is a really good leader in that team as well. So I think if West Ham do decide to go in a different direction and listen to offers for Antonio, there won't be any shortage of takers for him.
He's an absolute unit, I think is what you would say. Yeah, he certainly might not be technically the most gifted, but he does cause carnage, doesn't he? He's a worry for centre-backs. And I think also you just touched on West Ham not wanting to sell him. In January, they would have been selling him to relegation rivals or relegation, the people in that battle with them. You see what happened to Burnley when they sold Chris Wood. Not necessarily was that the reason they went down. That's probably harsh to say. And Wood didn't exactly light up Newcastle United, but you see my point. It's something that clubs aren't really wanting to do. They don't want to strengthen those around them at all. Let's talk about West Ham's midfield then. We'll touch on we'll talk on Declan Rice because we've got to talk about Declan Rice. I mean, everyone wants a bit of Declan Rice. It seems Arsenal clearly in front. My understanding is Declan Rice wants to stay in London. He really likes London. Chelsea and Arsenal have been pursuing that for quite a long time, although Chelsea could actually move to Caicedo, even though he signed a new deal. We'll wait and see on that front. But Arsenal in a good position. Rice is going to leave West Ham in the summer, isn't he?
Yeah, you would think he would leave West Ham. He's obviously come out, I think, was on international duty with England, saying that he wants to be playing at the highest level, playing in the Champions League, competing for Premier League titles, competing for silverware. He's done really well for West Ham, and West Ham have done really well for Declan Rice as well. I think you got to say that. They've given that platform to go on and become a fully established England international, one of the best players in the Premier League as well, and one of the best in Europe. I think he's really enhanced his reputation for what he's done at West Ham over the last couple of seasons and what he's done for England as well. He's key man in that Gareth Southgate team as well. So yeah, top player. There's always going to be interest when you've got the likes of Declan Rice around. Obviously, those contract talks with West Ham haven't come to anything. Doesn't seem that there's any agreement going to be reached there between West Ham and Declan Rice over a new deal, which West Ham obviously would love to do to tie down Declan Rice to a new contract. But yeah, the player's keeping his options open right now. Lots of interest in his services. Chelsea have tried in the last couple of transfer windows to try and sign Rice, but haven't been able to get a deal done. And as you said, Fraser, Arsenal seem to be leading the race for his signature right now, obviously building something really special under Michail Arteta at the Emirates. Could Declan Rice be the final piece in that jigsaw? Quite possibly. He could maybe take Arsenal to another level if he went in there, and I'm sure it's a situation that he would be really interested in as well, with Arsenal looking like they're going to be regulars in the Champions League going forward, also regular contenders to try and win trophies as well. But yeah, West Ham, they're going to ask for top dollar. He's coming into the final year of his contract this summer as well, but West Ham do have an option on it to extend it, which I'm sure they will do just to safeguard the price tag on Declan Rice's head.
Yeah, Chelsea have tried on a couple of occasions. That was probably Declan Rice phoning you there, Pete, just to let you know what he's up to. Arsenal are in a good position. Declan Rice has spoken about wanting to play at the top level. Arsenal are going to have Champions League football in their offer. Chelsea are not going to have that this season. It's that Arsenal in a very strong position. I'd look out for Manchester City as well. There's no reason why. The Manchester City very driven again by homegrown status. The same thing kind of Liverpool. They need some more English players who could come in and play. They obviously brought in Phillips, didn't they? The defensive midfielder. He struggled at the start of the season with injury. Declan Rice could be another one. They're in the Jude Bellingham race as well. So yeah, watch out for Manchester City on that front. In terms of incomings for West Ham, Pete, what areas of the pitch are they looking to strengthen? Because you might say all over, but what areas of the pitch are they do you think that they're going to majorly be targeting in the summer? And it looks like they could lose probably a few forward options. So
yeah. I think, as you said, West Ham did strengthen quite strongly in the summer with a number of players, but yeah, I still think they'll be looking to add to certain areas of the team. Obviously, the big one's going to be Declan Rice. If Declan Rice leaves, they're going to have to bring in a new midfielder, I think, and obviously a Declan Rice transfer will obviously bring in money for West Ham to reinvest in the squad elsewhere. So yeah, if he was to go, a midfielder's a massive priority for the club to try and sort out as well. Possibly left back cover could be brought in as well. They've sold Masuaku now on a permanent basis to Besiktas for a couple of million. So they'll be looking maybe to bolster in that area as well, while also Cresswell is coming to the end of his contract. So that could leave them short of a couple of left backs as well. I think they could also be looking at a right back with doubts over Soufal's long-term at the club as well. So a younger right back, I think, might be something that West Ham are looking at. But yeah, the big struggle for West Ham this season has been the lack of goals. So probably attacking reinforcements is what West Ham will make a top priority in the summer to try and improve on. If they do let go of a few players like Scamacca and Antonio, possibly they're going to have to bring in new strikers. There's no doubts about that as well. And I think maybe looking down at the Championship, maybe for reinforcements, where they've had great success in the past, bringing in players from the Championship into the Premier League. I think Victor Gyökeres at Coventry is somebody maybe to keep an eye on. I expect him to leave Coventry this summer, unless Coventry win promotion to the Premier League through the playoffs. But yeah, he's a top player, Sweden international as well, regular goal scorer in the Championship. So I think a number of Premier League clubs, including West Ham, will be monitoring his situation really closely. João Pedro, also at Watford, is a potential target for West Ham as well. A more versatile attacker maybe than Gyökeres. He can play out wide or play down the middle.
Can play across the three, can't he, João Pedro? Yeah.
Versatile player again would improve options in any team in the final third. And so I think he could be another one that with it looking like Watford aren't going to win promotion back to the Premier League. So I'm sure the player would jump at the chance of returning to the English top flight as well. So yeah, I think for West Ham, a lot will depend on departures. So if players leave, they'll have to replace them, and all eyes will be on what happens with Declan Rice and then probably what happens up front.
Let's talk about Gyökeres quickly. Obviously at Coventry, flying, phenomenal striker. He's got so much interest in him, doesn't he? What about his movements? Because there's lots of interest from him in the Premier League, but there's also interest from him in Spain. Would West Ham be in a position to actually convince him to come to the London Stadium? And then, of course, you spoke about it, Coventry could be in the Premier League if they manage to squeeze through the playoffs as well.
Yeah, obviously he's big decision to be made by Victor Gyökeres this summer. Obviously, his goal-scoring exploits have brought attention from Premier League clubs and clubs from abroad as well. Obviously, Coventry would hope they would have a great chance of keeping him if they were to win promotion to the Premier League. But yeah, I think right now there's going to be a lot of clubs ready to try and sign the Sweden international. Some clubs tried in the last couple of transfer windows to land him, but Coventry priced him out of a move and were determined to keep hold of him. So yeah, I think West Ham, from the clubs that are in the Premier League that are interested in him, I'm sure they'd be pretty hopeful that they could persuade Gyökeres to make the move to the London Stadium, a chance to play in the Premier League, and move to London, and also to a progressive club like West Ham, who knows, come next season could be the winners of the Europa Conference League and still in the Premier League. So I'm sure it'll be an attractive proposition for any player, not just Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah, it's a big couple of months ahead for West Ham. They obviously have to stay in the Premier League first and foremost, and then kick on in summer. Final thought: West Ham have said on a couple of occasions they want £100 million for Declan Rice. Do you see them reaching that figure in the summer, Pete, or do you think it'll come somewhere below? My estimation is it'll be about 85 and they'll get add-ons. But do you think that they will hit that £100 million for Declan Rice?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to get that. Obviously, West Ham will try and drive a hard bargain for Declan Rice. They'll look at other players that have moved recently for that huge transfer fee and try and gauge from that what they can get for Declan Rice. But yeah, with coming into the final year of his contract, even with that contract option that West Ham have, I think, as you said, around the 80 to £90 million mark is probably the going rate for Declan Rice right now. But yeah, he's probably added a few more million onto his price tag following that great solo goal against Ghent in the Conference League on Thursday night as well. But yeah, top player Declan Rice, and as I said, I think 80 million plus is probably what he's worth right now as well. But what he could bring to his potential new club could be worth a lot more than that, because I think he's a top player and he'll definitely improve a lot of teams.
Yeah, West Ham fans, you'll just want to stay in the league first. You maybe want to pick up a European trophy. David Moyes' position next season, West Ham are sticking with him this season. We know that much, and that wasn't going to change. But what happens next season, we'll wait and see. And then a big summer ahead. Declan Rice looking like he's going to move for big money. You could lose Jarrod, Bowen, striking options, potentially leaving the club with Scamacca and Antonio. The likes of Lanzini coming to the end of his contract. Cresswell, Ogbonna we spoke about as well. So a big couple of months ahead for West Ham. Thanks again, Pete, for joining me. I know you always enjoy it when I send you a text saying, right, come on, you're on the inside track, mate. But it's much appreciated. And if you want to know more, make sure you subscribe. If you want to see our videos, make sure you subscribe. Like I said, me and Pete spoke about Aston Villa at the start of the week. I spoke about Newcastle in the middle of the week. And this obviously has been West Ham. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much, Pete. No cheerio.
No worries, pal.